Newstalk 102.3, 1240 on the AM side. We'll go to the phone line.
And we want to welcome Philip Crowley to the program. He's an attorney who's been handling legal matters for pharmaceutical, biomedical, medical devices, and information technology for many, many years, for over 30 years. And he has also spent 25 years on the Board of Trustees of the Stevens Institute of Technology. He's going to talk to us this morning about hackers, phishing, and social engineering, and he's going to give us some cyber tips. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning, Celinda. It's so nice to be with you and James this morning in sunny Texas.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, you, one of the things here says that hackers are breaking into the computers and the of some very famous people, and we don't know how they've gained access. And then that brings to mind ransomware and all the reports that you hear about that. How's that happening?
Well, I think that in this era of the pandemic with COVID-19, what the new reality is, think of this. You know, you're in your bedroom, you're working from your home computer on some business things. Your spouse is in the dining room on a Zoom call. The kids are in the kitchen doing distance learning. The dog is barking and wants to go out. Something comes up on your computer and it says urgent. And so without thinking, you click on that, you click on the attachment, and all of a sudden a ghostly figure appears on your computer screen saying, we need you to send $1,000 in Bitcoins to a particular address, or we will destroy the data on your computer. And when that happens, you know, what do? I mean, it's the new reality because people are distracted by being at home, working from home. And so they sometimes forget what I call good information technology hygiene, and that is not to click on emails or attachments that come from suspicious or unknown sources. And it's easy to get caught up in that when you're at home in a distracted environment. When you are in the office, for many of your listeners, you know, they've got an IT department that scans the system to detect problems. They've got firewalls. They're looking for malware. They do backups of the data, and they train the staff to look for these things. And so the incentive for workers from the home and for people who are using their home computers are to try to use some of these same techniques that information technology staffs use. And what social engineering sometimes does is that hackers will try to penetrate an organization by finding out information about the organization and go from person to person. And as they pick up information, it seems like they're a coworker because they know so much about the people in the organization and use that to obtain information, IDs, passwords, email addresses from other people in the organization, so that they can then use that basically to trick them into providing information or giving access to accounts or sending money to new accounts. One of the great ways to prevent that sort of thing is to call somebody up on the telephone when you get an unusual request or any request dealing with the transfer of funds. And then home users, users of home computer for their own purposes or for business purposes, have some techniques that they can use to help themselves. Number one is keeping the software up to date. Major software producers provide regular updates to the software to close up security gaps in the software and remove bugs. It's important to make sure that your system is set up automatically to install those. Secondly, you should remove old programs that don't provide updates and software that you no longer use because they have vulnerabilities that can allow hackers who are probing systems on the web to get into your system. Another way to protect yourself is to create regular backups of your data. There are a number of online sources. One is Carbonite, but if you have Microsoft or Apple products, they regularly back up data. They have software that regularly backs up data to their servers. But you can also get a very inexpensive local disk drive and back things up locally. One of the tips that I got from my IT friends was once you back up your system, to remove that disk from your computer, because if, for instance, a hacker gets in and locks up your system, if your backup drive is connected to the system, the backup will be encrypted as well. So you don't want that to happen to you.
Let me ask you this, Phil. What about your operating system? You said if you need to get rid of old software and all that kind of thing. What if you have Windows, I don't know, what's the obsolete one now? Probably 7, maybe?
Right, or Windows XP or Windows Vista, any of those old things. It sometimes is tempting to keep an old operating system, but those old operating systems have vulnerabilities, and Microsoft no longer supports those.
Right.
And so they are at risk, and although it may be more costly to get the new operating system in these days of hackers and the WannaCry virus that basically locks up your system, it's better to have the latest and most up-to-date and most secure software to protect your system, protect your data, and protect yourself.
What is that that you just mentioned, the WannaCry virus? What is that?
Well, the WannaCry virus is a virus that has been propagated for some time and has some variants. And what happens is that an email is sent to somebody in an organization and with an instruction to click on an attachment. When you click on the attachment, the attachment downloads a virus program that goes through a computer system and basically encrypts all of the data and all of the data on all of the connected servers in the system so that it's inaccessible to you as the user and everybody else who's on the system. And typically it comes with a demand for a payment in Bitcoin to some secretive URL that's a web address of tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, this has happened to institutions. It's happened to major medical institutions, and you can imagine how disruptive that can be when you have patient data on patients that are in the hospital that you can't get at. So the pressure on institutions like that is enormous, and that's why having the offline backup so that you can restore the system without paying the ransom is so important. And so it's important for users at home on the home computers as well.
And what are some of the other things that we can do on our home computers to make sure? And I wondered if you had any firewall programs that you would endorse.
Well, there are some that I use, but there are many, many out there, and I would recommend that your listeners speak to the IT staff at their companies. But McAfee has a program, and there are many others. If you go to cnet.com, it is a website that provides ratings of computer software and computer products, and they have lists of recommended particular programs. One thing that I suggest in particular that those with laptop computers and who like to sit at Starbucks and enjoy the free Wi-Fi is to use virtual private network software, VPN software. What that does is it encrypts your transmission in at the free Wi-Fi spot so that it can't be read by a hacker with particular software. Because when you send that information, you may be making a deposit or a withdrawal from your bank account or transferring funds. All of that information is unencrypted and can be intercepted. So that's a danger. So the VPN software provides it's like a secure channel that you can then use for those particular transactions. In addition, many websites and programs offer what's called two-factor authentication. So you get an ID and a password, and then you're presented with a screen where you have to put in some type of PIN or code, and the website then sends to your smartphone, or you may have an app that provides a particular code that you then insert in order to gain access. And what that does, it makes it incredibly difficult, if not impossible, for someone, even if they've stolen your ID and password, to be able to get into your data, to get into those systems. That's particularly useful when you're dealing with banks and banking transactions.
Let me ask you this. Am I safer, or does it make any difference whether I do a lot of stuff on my phone versus a laptop?
Well, if you use the cellular network, James, that is somewhat more secure than your laptop without a virtual private network. If you have a virtual private network software, and there are a bunch of them out there, the one that I use is called CyberGhost, CYBERGHOST. And it is a software program that encrypts the material that's being transmitted. But although cellular networks are not completely secure, they are more secure than a laptop without a virtual private network software channel.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going strictly by size. This is littler. This is littler. It can't be as much done on it. Surely no one would be hacking into this as easy as they'd be trying to get into my
Your
laptop. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. But then again, James, the two-factor authentication can be very helpful in providing that extra level of security and peace of mind for when you're engaged in banking and other sensitive transactions.
All right. Thank you.
Well, we have been talking this morning to Phil Crowley, and he's an attorney who's been involved in IT for many, many years, and he is on the board of trustees for the Stevens Institute of Technology. And Phil, is there a place where our listeners can find some of your tips?
Certainly. I've got a website, www.Crowley Law LLC. That's CROWLEYLAWLLC.com. And I've got a whole load of free stuff and information out there. So I'd invite your listeners to take a look there. Also, I have a regular monthly newsletter that they can sign up for, and that discusses developments in the technology and life sciences space, and I've gotten some good comments on it, and so I can recommend both of those to your listeners. I'm happy to share information about technology. It has the potential for improving life and making our lives easier. It comes with its own challenges, as we've been discussing this morning, but in general, it's the future, and so I embrace it and try to help my clients and others learn how to embrace it so that it is a net positive in their lives.
Well, Phil Crowley, thank you so much for being with us and all the good information.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it, and have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.